Hello everyone, welcome to The Smart Student. My name is Chelsea Seaburn. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Don't forget to hit the little subscribe button down here. And for everybody else, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up and let's dive in. So, you want to learn how to ace your multiple choice questions, huh? Well, if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you've tried all the age-old tips and tricks in the book, and up to this point, nothing has worked in your favor, or at least as effectively as you would have hoped. Well, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but there is no secret to magically acing your multiple choice questions without putting much thought and effort into it. Isn't that a bummer? I'm sorry to crush your hopes and dreams, but I had to get you to set your expectations realistically. Because while I don't have a secret magic tool to help you ace your multiple choice questions, what I do have is a set of 3 steps that build on each other that's gonna make you highly effective when taking your test. But instead of steps, we're gonna call these rounds, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna go through your test in 3 different rounds. And by using these 3 rounds, you're gonna implement the process of elimination, but in each round there are different tips and tricks that help you through each one. So let's go ahead and start with round 1. Now, the first thing you want to do when taking a multiple choice question is go through each question and answer the ones that are most easy for you. Now, why do you do this? Well, because some of the material in your test will build on each other or is relevant to other questions. So by going through your test and answering the easiest one first, you're going to start gathering information that's going to help you answer more difficult questions later on. In other words, you're prepping your brain by introducing it to the material that's on your test. And your brain, the wonderful tool that it is, will start to go to work subconsciously solving some of these tougher problems. So in this first round, you're going to answer the questions that are so easy for you that you don't even necessarily have to look at the multiple choice options because you just know the answer. And that leads me right into my pro tip number 1, which is you should always try to answer your questions before looking at the multiple choice options. In other words, read the question first, don't look at the answers just yet, see if you can come up with the answer on your own in your mind. Why? Because this is going to lessen the chance that you become confused with those multiple choice options or that you second guess yourself. This will also help you separate the questions you know verbatim versus the ones that require deeper thought and reasoning, and from the questions that you really don't know the answer to that are going to require different test-taking tactics to answer. And lastly, and what I think is the most important reason for doing this, is that when you can come up with the answer on your own in your head, this is going to boost your confidence. And you should never underestimate a good old confidence booster, especially when doing something like taking an exam when you can use all the confidence you can get. And that's the purpose of round 1, is to go through, answer these easy questions, prep your brain, boost your confidence, and get yourself ready for round 2. All right, once you're finished with that, you're ready for round 2. Here, we're going to continue the process of elimination. Now, you're going to go back through your test and work to answer the questions that you skipped before. But now, you're going to start to slow down because these questions are going to require a little more thought and reasoning on your part. So now, what I would like to do is take a few seconds and go over my step-by-step best practices for answering multiple choice questions. Yes, I recommend using this formula whether you're answering your easiest question or your toughest question on your tests and finals. Step 1. Read the question. Step 2, see if you can come up with the answer in your mind first. Step 3, reread the question again. Step 4, read through all of your multiple choice options. Step 5, reread the question one last time. Step 6, go ahead and select an answer. Now, I already know what you're thinking. Gee, Chelsea, that's a lot of steps and a lot of reading to just answer one single question. Well, truth be told, these steps take a matter of seconds, and most importantly, they are a foolproof method to make sure that you understand the question and that you don't miss out on any keywords or phrases that change the meaning of how you're going to answer that question. There have been so many multiple choice questions in the history of test taking that have been answered incorrectly simply because the student didn't see an important word such as the word not, or they didn't understand that the question wasn't asking them for the right answer, but that the question was asking them for the best right answer. And what's our motto here on The Smart Student? It's to study smarter, not harder, and yes, that includes taking those few extra seconds, reading your questions and your answers a few times over so that way you don't miss out on easy points. All right, rant over, you're in round 2, you've slowed down your pace, you're going back through your test, and you're working on the answers that are a little more difficult to answer. So you read through the question, you take a second to see if you can come up with the answer on your own, you read back through that question, read through the multiple choice options, skim that question one last time, and then you try to answer the question. My pro tip in this round is taking anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute-ish to answer each question. That doesn't include reading it and reading the options. That includes the amount of time you spend in critical thinking about the answer of the question. My reason being is that if you know the answer, this is enough time to pull that answer out of your mind. If you cannot answer it in that time frame, give or take a little bit, this means that it's going to require a different method for answering it. So let's go ahead and leave those for the last round. You see, when you spend minutes trying to answer a multiple choice question, with the exception that it's not a math problem and you're working through a formula, when you spend a lot of time trying to come up with an answer, this usually means that you don't know it. And when you spend too much time in that mindset, I find that this is when students start to stress, they start to panic. And once your mind fully drops over into the "this is too difficult" mindset, your entire test becomes that much harder to take. So in round 2, if you can't come up with the answer, that's okay. Take a deep breath and go ahead and move on to the next question because you still have round 3 to answer those questions left. Okay, so once you're finished with round 2, you're ready, or as ready as you'll ever be for round 3, which is when you go back through your test one last time and you answer your questions that are the most difficult for you. The reason you're ready now is because you've gathered as much useful information as possible at this point. There's also great comfort to be found in knowing that your test is almost finished, that just a few questions stand in the way from you and being finished, and that helps melt away some of your test anxiety. So now you're going to go back up to the beginning of your test and start cranking away these tough questions. My pro tip here is to take process of elimination a step further. And how you're going to do that is that you're going to go through your questions and cross out the multiple choice options that you know are incorrect. The goal is to narrow down each question to 2 options. But even if you only cross out maybe one answer that you know is incorrect, this is still going to help you make a more informed decision. Now, I know most of your tests are online, so you can't physically go through and cross out your answers, but I do know that most of your tests will allow you to use a sheet of paper. If you do have a sheet of paper, what you're going to do is write down the number to the question, list out A through D, A through E, however many multiple choice options there are, and then cross out those letters. This gives you something visual to look at, and if you happen to skip this question one last time, when you come back to it, you remember where you were when you left off. Now, if you can narrow down your toughest questions to 2 answers, that means that you have a 50% chance of getting it correctly, and quite frankly, those are pretty good odds if I do say so myself. Now, I do have one last best practice that will help you in this toughest round before I give you my 2 rules of thumbs that you should always follow when taking your multiple choice exams. Alright, so when you're in your last round, finishing up your multiple choice questions, I suggest reviewing them in chunks as you go through your test. More specifically, I suggest reviewing your questions in chunks of, say, 5 or a little more as you complete them. So in other words, let's say you have 5 questions answered in a row, go to the start of those 5 and do your review of each question and answer right then and there. Now, the purpose of reviewing your questions is to solidify the test and make sure you didn't miss out on any of those keywords or phrases like we discussed before. What it is not is to question the answer you chose. When reviewing test questions, I think a lot of students think the purpose of that is to question whether they answered it correctly or not. This is where you may have had the right answer selected, but then you second guess yourself, so you switch it and then you get the question wrong. So that this doesn't happen to you, what I suggest doing is using that same recall method of reading the question and seeing if you can recall the answer in your mind before looking at what you selected. But the key difference here is that instead of recalling the answer you selected, try to recall the logic of why you selected that answer. This is going to force you to think about your questions and answers in a different light, and it's going to minimize your likelihood of second guessing yourself and changing your answers last minute. Now, if you are ever going to change an answer last minute, pause. Always, always, always ask yourself, why am I changing this answer? Why does the logic of this answer make more sense than the one that I previously chose? If you can come up with a clear, distinct reason for that choice, then go ahead and change the answer. If you cannot, leave the answer, go with your gut instinct of what you chose the first time. Now, why do I suggest reviewing your questions in small chunks rather than in one long go at the end of your test? Well, it's going to give your brain little breaks from all the hard work you're doing while answering your toughest questions. It's going to remind you of all your small victories, which will keep your confidence boosted, and you'll be getting little mini reviews of your course material, which might help you squeeze out any last minute information that'll help you answer those last questions. Now, my first rule of thumb for taking multiple choice questions is that you should never ever leave a question blank unless you get counted off for answering a question incorrectly, which is almost never ever the case. And take it from Wayne Gretzky, who said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you will miss 100% of the questions you don't answer. And my last rule of thumb is that if you're reading a question and one of the answers is either all of the above or none of the above, if you can confirm that two of the other options fit that answer, then that answer is most likely the correct one. In other words, you do not have to know if all of the answers fit all of the above, because two is usually enough to indicate that that's the correct answer. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope I got this video out to everybody who needs it before taking your final exams and running off to winter break this year. If you are an online college student, don't forget to join my Smart Student Facebook group, where we focus on community and connection and a safe place to ask questions. And also, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me on either paper writing or APA formatting, I've left my email in the description below. Shoot me an email, let me know where you're from, what you need help with, and I will let you know what to do from there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Have a great week. If you haven't liked this video already, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe for more videos like this every week. Thank you.